Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, what we are going to do today is we are going to see what is sand and what are its different properties of molding sand. So as we say, sand is not just sand, it can be used for making a mold. So they will having some different properties, these properties which we are going to see today. So we'll see it one by one. There are some basic properties of a sand. It should be high in strength, it should be flowable, it should be collapsible, it should have the refractory property, etc. So we'll see it one by one. So there are some properties in which the first and the major property is strength. It should have basically three types of strength. One is dry strength, second hot strength, and the third one is green strength. All the three strengths have different meaning. So first we'll go to green strength. Green strength, which means it should have high sustainability. Like your sand should not get wiped away, or it should not get rubbed away, or it should not get washed away with your molten sand. It should not get rubbed away by your molten metal. So it should have high strength. So green strength is what? It's just high strength. Then we will come to dry strength. In dry strength, what we see is your sand should not get eroded. Your erosion property comes in that. So high strength and less erosion is the basic property. Green strength provide high strength and dry strength provide erosion less strength. So erosion should not be there in your sand as the molten metal flows. Then we'll come to hot strength. In hot strength, what happens is your molten metal is hot. It has high amount of energy, high amount of temperature is there in your molten metal. So when it enters, your sand should not get wiped off. It should be able to sustain it. So hence it should have the property of refractory, like to sustain the high temperature. So in that way, high strength, that is hot strength, comes in picture. So these are the basic three strengths which should be there in your sand. These are hot, dry, as well as green strength. So the next property is permeability. As I'll saying it again and again, your sand should be permeable enough to penetrate or to allow the hot gases to get released. So permeability comes in picture. In this property, your hot gases which comes through the molten metal should get trapped off your cavity. So how it get trapped off? It enters your sand. Your sand should have the property, should not to clog it and to release the gases. So it releases the gases so that it enters the atmosphere and it doesn't remain in the sand. So sand should be permeable enough to trap off your gases. Then comes thermal stability. Now again, thermal stability comes in picture. As your gas is hot, hotness comes with thermal stability. So if your sand is thermally stable, it would sustain easily your high temperature. So sustainable property of your sand comes in picture. It should not get cracked. It should not harm your core. So for sustaining that, thermal stability of your sand is required. So if your sand is not thermally stable, the molten metal can enter it. It would form small fillers or small gap in your sand, which is not permitted, which is not feasible for a casting to be done. Then comes the property of refractory. Refractory is again related to thermal stability, related to something related to thermal engineering. So refractory property comes with the sand sustaining the high temperature. If your sand is not able to sustain the high temperature, it flows with the flow, so that sand is not proper and it flows with the molten metal. So in this way, if refractory property is not there in strength, so the sand flows away and your pattern is getting damaged. So these three properties, that is permeability, thermal stability, as well as refractability, is very essential for your sand. So next property is flowability and collapsibility. These two things comes in picture when your sand allows your molten metal to flow easily. It should not have any sort of obstruction in your molten metal, so that it should flow and reach the mold cavity. So if your sand is not smooth enough, it do not provide proper gates or proper runner to your molten metal to flow, so it won't be able to reach your cavity. So flowability is an important property of your sand. Next property is collapsibility. After doing your casting, what comes in picture? You don't need your sand box, you don't need your mold box. So what you do, you have to break your sand, you have to remove it so that you can recondition it and use it. So for reconditioning it, you need to break it, and after breaking, your sand should spread, like it should not form lumps. So even your sand should have the property of collapsibility, that is, it should get collapsed easily after the usage. And the final part is sand preparation, how it is exactly done. So sand consists of basically 4 constituents, that is your sand additives in small number, clay, water, and the major part is your sand silicate. So these 4 constituents are added in proper quantity, proper constituents, and it is mixed, and proper quantity of water is added, how much is required, clay is added, and it is mixed properly. And first part is sand mixing. The second part is sand tempering. So in tempering, what is done? When your sand is added in your mold box, it is tempered. It should get spread easily in your box. It should be spreading in proper quantity and in proper corners. And then what you do is you do ramming. Ramming is a kind of tempering. You have to ram so that excess air, excess material should come up and it should be striked off. Then again additional sand is added, it is rammed. So it is a proper process of tempering. So sand is rammed and tempered properly by removing the excess material as well as the excess gas which comes out due to venting of your sand. And the third part is sand conditioning. As soon as your tempering is done, your mixing is done, then conditioning part comes. In conditioning part, again, after tempering, the additional parts, the additional small parts or small sand or small pebbles which comes, you have to move it, you have to remove it. In this way you can condition your sand properly. So these are the 3 basic parts. One is mixing all the ingredients properly in proper quantity. Then what you do, you temper your sand. And then the third part is sand conditioning. In conditioning part, you remove your excess material by striking it off or by using a blower. Blower is also a very good option for sand conditioning. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and do subscribe our channel Ekeeda.